Yeah.
Welcome to J.Ill, a production of iHeartRadio.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Hi, it's Jill Scott, and we're here for J.Ill, the podcast. I'm with my sister friends Laia St. Clair.
Yes, ma'am. That's me. Yes, ma'am. President.
St. Clair.
Yes.
St. Clair. I used to say Sinclair.
It was that first. It's okay. You know, slavery done fucked it all up anyway, Jill. So, you know, I can't even claim the classiness of the name.
Wow. Oh, and Aja Graydon Danzler.
Sorry, too much.
Danzler.
Danzler. Whoop, there it is.
I wish I could have got a couple more syllables. You know what I mean? A couple of more syllables would have been nice. You have a 3-letter name with 2 syllables. Aja.
I do.
Damn it.
And yet people still can never say it correct. It's shocking.
You're a continent.
Yeah. It's funny
She's not.
to me.
She's an Aja.
Aja.
Look.
A-ja. Like, Ja Rastafari.
Okay. Apparently, today we've had some coffee.
Yeah.
We've had several cups.
It might have been a little sweet on us today. We're talking about how to move on from where we are now. Where are we now? Trump has been, I think he's been put out of office. It looks like it. It looks like it.
Not physically, but he will be.
It's on the horizon.
Yes.
Yes. Currently, he's still held up in the White House. I am looking forward to the day seeing him out of it.
Yo, Scranton about to come and rap. Scranton about to be like, yo, if you don't get your ass the fuck up out of here, we gonna do it for you.
I need a slow motion. I need a slow motion so that I could just watch it over and over again while I don't know, eat ice cream.
I would like it to be, I like the Obamas to be present when he gets kicked out. You know what I'm saying? Just because they had to save face in 2016 and walk that motherfucker through the White House, act like they like this nigga. I'm sorry. I gotta fix this.
No. It's applicable right there.
Oh, okay, yeah. And
it's applicable right there.
And sit in the office and they even left notes for these motherfuckers. Like I'm sorry. So,
girl, extensive notes.
That's great.
Yes, that's what
that's
it
grace
is. So
and it's class.
I'm tired of
that's
their class.
Grace and class for your ass.
Yeah.
And I'm very, very interested in us publicly getting to see them drag him on out of there. I almost don't want him to leave. I want him to be there on the 21st. Or is it January 21st is the very last day? Whatever that
20th.
last day is.
Yeah.
Or the 20th. I want to see the Secret Service switch over and grab him by the ankles and slide him out the front door while he scratches the floor.
I've been to the White House a couple times.
Okay.
And what I liked about how they kick you out is they're like I guess they're in the military. Who wears white? The Marines?
The Navy?
They all have some kind of white fancy outfit.
Mm-hmm.
I honestly don't know which part of the military they were in, but they were smooth. What they do is they kind of herd you out. So everybody's having a good time in these big spaces. And all of a sudden, the white suits come in a little closer. And because you know your personal space, you move a little bit.
Wow.
And then they go a little more forward and you move a little bit.
Like a wall.
It's like a wall. And they're smiling the whole time and listening to the music too. It wasn't uncomfortable. Next thing you know, you're outside.
Can I just say to the people that Jill is talking about a very interesting experience? Because number one, I believe you are talking about an Obama White House experience. Number two, you are talking about an Obama White House party experience, i.e. the BET closing party, which I'm going to say to you, Jill, that White House, that gone. Whatever you saw back
that
then,
White House,
that
White House was a once in a lifetime. That
glad I
wasn't a
got to be there.
lifetime moment, that White House right there, child.
I'm
Lord.
so glad I got to be there. Did I tell you that they, at one of those events, I went to 5 of them.
Oh,
If I'm-
shit.
They
Damn.
kept inviting me back. Honey,
The
I was
Obamas.
every time it was a great experience. At one of them, I think it might have been the first one where I took my mom, and they had watermelon and fried chicken, and I ate that watermelon so hard. I ate it so hard. They had cut it.
Don't
with
tell the half
lasers.
story, Jill. It's more things than watermelon. And please tell me it was more than watermelon and chicken, though. It was more on the menu.
I don't know. It was like tete-a-tete. It was little pieces of things all over the place. Pieces of delicious all over. And they had a mountain of sliced watermelon. It looked like the watermelon was cut by not a razor, but maybe a laser. It was perfect.
Child.
And then they
Little tiny black elves.
feta
It's clumped.
cheese on it. And I thought, who puts feta cheese on watermelon?
Yeah, that sounds
And
nasty.
Yeah, it did. It did sound nasty, but I ate it and I ate it again and I ate it again. And then there was then you know how it is when something is good, you start doing the little dance, you know? So, and then they're like,
Yeah. In the White House, I'm black. I'm black. I'm black.
I'm black
All of
eating
it.
chicken in the White House.
We did poses. Everybody posed in front of George Washington's picture.
Did you
Everybody.
squat? Who squatted? Did anybody squat?
Oh, I did. We all did. Everyone did. You're not allowed a camera.
Yes.
But everybody did it. Everybody was like, how you like me now? Eating chicken and watermelon. How you like me now?
Yo,
It felt great.
what was the
felt-
toilet?
it
Did y'all
felt
do
great.
the electric slide?
Every possible dance was
They
done.
wobbled. That was like they probably wobble it. You know.
Every possible dance was done. The party didn't
love
end.
it.
The last party didn't end till 5 a.m.
Can you break down what the bathroom looks like in the White House, Jill?
Which one, my G?
Do they look different? Would they look different? Or is it different decor? Is it like the Ebony Building where every color is a different color on every floor? You know, that's how the Ebony Building was. Like what? The bathroom? Like just give me.
It wasn't, I don't have a glowing recommendation of the bathrooms. I can tell you that they were wallpapered and they were efficient.
Okay.
Okay. The rooms coming from those bathrooms had plates and things that were hundreds of years old. You know,
And
there was a lot of antiques, a lot of memorabilia from other presidents. You know that Trump's portrait will be hanging in the White House.
Is it? No. Have they confirmed? Did they confirm that? I don't know. I don't. He didn't hang. You know that he did not hang Obama's picture. So actually, I don't know.
Are you
I
serious?
promise you that yes, Obama's picture is not in the White House. I promise you that.
There's something really going on. I mean, everybody knows this. We're just talking about it. There's really something there where you're so jealous, so agitated by this person's presence.
Doesn't he have a reason? Have you?
The words are big mad.
Yeah,
Big mad.
I mean, from the
Big mad.
physicality to the education, he is everything that Trump is not. Right?
True indeed. True indeed.
I just feel like that portraits do be looking at you. And if you had to walk down the hallway and that brother just sitting in the chair like he is in his portrait, he just looking at you.
And the portrait was done so well. Unlike any other portrait ever done.
Ever done.
Anytime,
Yes.
Anywhere.
Yes.
Anywhere.
Yes.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
I think
okay.
I'm just looking forward to that moment when we can really just figure out what's going to happen next. Like, how is this thing going to go? Because I'm tired of the little linger. The linger is bothering me.
Well, here's the issue, and you know the linger is not all the fault of the incoming president. The linger is the fact that this is the first time ever that there is not a graceful transition, not even a transition team. So,
I'm aware.
But yeah, I know you are. But yet, and still, you know, big ups to Biden and Harris because they still have their whole COVID team together. They still meeting. They're like, we're gonna do what we can do to make sure.
Right.
there's a transition and not just because like Dr. Fauci said, you can't just stop the game and start it again. It got to be a transition.
It has to be smooth. Like people have to work together.
Yeah.
Like this is necessary. But it's just like it's the instability and the disregard and the full on arrogance is just, it's beyond. It is beyond. And we still have 77 million American people who voted for this guy. And many of them that are in the same are just as delusional.
Yeah, that's just interesting and the scary part, right? Because we've had the most ever election folks come out to vote, but that also means that, like you said, 76 million people or so voted for Trump, which means we know they're there and they're upset.
We always knew they were there, but it's just that's sobering. That is sobering to think that here we are 4 years later. You've seen all that you've seen. It's not like the first time when they thought, I thought it was going to be this way, or I thought it might be this way. No, you saw how it was, and still more people turned out for him. In fact, more white women in particular came out. He had the biggest increase of the electorate was white women.
55%.
More white women voted for him this time than the first time. Okay. And there's a larger increase in white women than in white men.
Yeah, because all you got to do is put the fear in them. That's all. And
I just thought to myself, wow. And I refuse to believe that of those women, of those white women, those 55% of the white woman electorate, that I refuse to believe that none of them was down on Washington with one of them pussy hats on. One of them had a pussy hat on. One of them did.
Well, many of them did.
Many of them did. See now?
But then now you're talking about the breakdown between racism and womanism. You know what I'm saying?
No, feminism. That white feminism. All right. They ain't got nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
They ain't got nothing to do with me.
Feminism and womanism. Yeah.
I mean, let me just keep it to you straight. If you might hear me say feminism. You understand what I'm saying? But I'm very clear that in terms of what white women feel and think and practice when it comes to feminism does not always include me. And more often than not, does not include me.
Yeah. They're not clear.
So I most definitely like to use the word womanism, which was coined by Alice Walker, if I'm not mistaken, because I know that was meant for me. Mm-hmm. So I like to use terms I know are for me.
Thank you, Asia, for breaking that down, because I was somewhat unclear on the womanism versus feminism. So I appreciate that. Alice Walker. Yeah. Much respect.
Exactly.
Well, I'll tell you what I want to see.
Well,
as this man leaves office, so many things I have called this man. As he leaves office, I definitely need us, and I'm gonna just go on to say me. We have to start really paying attention to politics within our community, down to who's block captain.
Yeah.
Remember block captain?
Amen.
We really have to talk about who's running for office so that we can get. It's like training a child on how how to grow up. Mm-hmm. It's the same thing within our government. Like we have to choose well and support the people that are attempting to make changes in our society. Like really support them. If nothing else, we've learned this. Because out of the clear blue sky, some whack-ass billionaire who's not earned anything in a lifetime, who has no relationship at all with anybody, no relationship with the common people who wash clothes, who clean toilets, who fold, who go grocery shopping, no understanding of any part of it. I don't even know if the man has washed his own ass before. I don't know.
It's a good question. It's a good question.
Who knows? But I know that he was sitting on gold toilets when I was catching SEPTA. So,
you know that ass crack dirty. You know he got up on them gold toilets. You know they leave that.
You know that ass crack is dirty. I'm sorry. Just in my mind was like, ooh, he does
ain't
not
nothing like a man with a dirty ass crack. Sorry. Come on, fellas.
Girl.
There's
a skid mark.
No, right there on the toilet seats. What is that on the toilet seats?
If there's a skid mark, it's not like he would know about it, nor would he have to deal with it.
Because he don't look back.
He wouldn't have to deal with his own foolishness. None of it.
That's why I'm excited. And it's funny. I don't like to whitewash.
How do you make somebody president who's never been accountable for anything? How?
I don't know. Ask Putin. I don't know.
I think it's very easy to pick a president who's never been accountable for anything. We don't listen.
How do you make them the poor? How do you make them the poor white people president? Is the question. How did that rich white man become the poor white man's president? Like, whoa!
That man became the poor white man's president way before that, because the bottom line is that poor white people didn't have nothing to do with planters and owners of plantations. And plantation owners were our first senators and our first congressmen. And poor white people wasn't getting none of that money.
Right.
So white men been making the rules for poor white people a long time. And they've been sipping that BS Kool-Aid that the rich white man been telling them since, the 17th, 16th century, telling him, oh, you poor, you disenfranchised, but you better than them niggas.
Yeah. That's been going on for a long time. That's why it was the poor people's
campaign.
Old lie. Right. Yeah. You're so right.
That's an old lie.
And it's been an important lie to hold on to.
Yeah.
That gave them a sense of being, a sense of value,
of purpose and ownership.
value.
Like this is that's right, Mr. Trump. This is our place.
That's right.
It's not though.
Well, we see the amount of hatred. We see the amount of anger. We're still here in this country. So now what?
We'll be back after the break.
And can I just allow a moment? I know people, people on social media. I know people on social media like, I don't know what y'all are so happy for. This motherfucker Biden ain't no better than da-da-da-da-da-da. But can I just say on just a level of symbolism, because I know it used to not matter until Trump came into office, symbolism and what this man symbolizes. I'm still more excited to see a man who did come from nothing in a way. I'm still excited to see a man who loves his wife and I'll be able to see some love back in the White House. I mean, a man who is married to a teacher, so she is connected to things. She is still a teacher, like a man who has been lifted up in the White House twice by two Black people. Because remember, there would be no Joe Biden if not for, in a sense of a President Joe Biden, in a sense of a Barack Obama and a Kamala Harris. And he knows that. I am very conscious that this white man knows that he is on the backs of these people. So can we just have a moment to say things are possibly going to be better than the last 4 years without making me feel like, the fuck is wrong with you? You dumb?
No.
You know what I mean?
Girl, listen. And not that you need my permission or anybody else's.
I do need your permission, though.
Girl, by all means, it's going to be better. Come on now. You'll be a crazy person to think it's not going to be better. But better has varying degrees. Right. And better is also, in comparison to what? And so if you're not comparing it specifically to the character of Donald Trump, if you're just talking about, if you're just talking about Donald Trump, then I mean, most of us would have voted for Bernie. You know what I'm saying? But I do think it would be unfair to a Joe Biden or even a Kamala Harris to assume that, or to even hint toward that they are the same types of, they would have the same kind of leadership as a Trump, and there is no difference. I think that's dangerous.
Right.
And it lacks nuance.
Black folks, and I don't.
Yeah, it lacks nuance, and it's silly to me. However, we do have to understand that, Trayvon Martin, that happened on Barack's watch. These kinds of things happen to us and continue to happen to us throughout the Obama presidency. And yeah, it was awesome.
A lot of bad things happened during Obama. We lost a lot of children. Sandy Hook happened during Obama's watch too. Like shit, it was the most child school shootings in history in Obama's watch. I'm sorry, but go ahead.
Right. No, and we're on the same page because so what we're saying, I think is so important to keep having the nuance there. What we're saying is that, or what anyone is saying is, yes, it is important to not have Trump. But we cannot be so focused on not having Trump that we create a pedestal for Joe Biden, or we create a pedestal for Kamala Harris, or anybody else who would come into office on the tails of this kind of terrible criminal administration. So that is where we have to be careful. And we have to be careful not to set them up into a moment where they cannot be publicly critiqued.
That's true.
Because I think we are dangerously at that moment with Kamala Harris.
But no, I don't know, because we've been critiquing her the whole ride through, right? Like this is the first time we really
in comparison to. She's been critiqued in comparison to. So as a Black woman, she's going to get way more drama than anybody else because she's a Black woman. People going to be on her ass the same way they were on way worse than Hillary Clinton.
Too.
No, exactly, like a Michelle Obama. So yeah, she's going to get it worse. But what we have to do as a community, and we are absolutely sophisticated enough to do this, is that we have to be clear that as we protect her from these white supremacist attacks, that we are also extremely critical, and not critical in a way that says that we are being unfair or mean or inaccurate, but that we deserve that. We deserve leadership that doesn't just represent us in color and background, but that they also represent our best interests. Not some of our interests, but our very best interests as a group, as an electorate, as a community, period.
I see the activists already on social media talking about, we ain't forgot that we got you here. So we're going to come back. We coming for you for what you promised us. So I see a lot of activists on social already ready to collect. And I'm not mad at that. I mean, I get it.
Right.
Although can we collect on this COVID first? Let's not forget. I just want to,
listen,
I want to go.
The thing is this country has a whole lot of checks that done sent out. It owes a lot of people. It needs to cover a lot of checks.
Okay, speaking of these checks, this might be really, really personal. I got a loan as well for my employees. Because I had over 30 employees. And they gave me an amount of money that I celebrated. I was like, yay, I'm going to be able to pay everybody for a month. Didn't do the math right, really. And it really only paid for 2 weeks.
Shit.
Right. I guess I hyped it up in my mind that this was going to be such a relief for everybody, and it was going to take some of the weight off. That's what I thought. Yeah. But anyway, it only took care of 2 weeks for everyone, down to the nickel. And I get a phone call saying that they overgave me by 5 times.
What?
And that they want to...
They want it?
Yeah, they want me to repay them or to reimburse them for the 2 weeks of finance that I, sent out to my employees.
My God, today.
And I think that that's what's going to happen with a lot of people. I feel like it was a scam.
Yeah.
I feel like it was a scam. It wasn't as if I didn't send everything that was necessary. Sent it all. Sent my payroll, sent their names. They can account for the money. Everything went to employees. I didn't get a cent of it. But nonetheless.
But Jill, you know what? Would you ever sign up for Trump University?
No.
Would you ever do a deal with Donald Trump?
No.
And so it's funny. I don't think people thought about it like
It's
that.
the
'cause he was-
same.
It's the same thing.
Oh,
I'm so sorry. I worried about that. And it's funny. You heard like conspiracy theories about people it coming out of their taxes for 2021. And I'm just hoping that's not the case too. Because some people took money and they're like, well, what if they decide in 2021 that I got to pay this shit back? Which I hope is not the case. But
It's the case. I absolutely believe that it's the case. Yeah. Yep. 5 times. So you telling me you fucked up 5 times?
waiting for me to cash the check.
You messed up 5 times? How? How are your calculations this wrong? How?
And where's your proof?
I'm looking.
Yeah.
Because all of my shit is in order. We need to pay attention to these late night congressional meetings. We need to pay attention.
Right.
This stuff is happening in the middle of the night. I know that I've, in my lifetime, I've seen, the live recordings of Congress meeting, and I turn away. I don't want to watch that. It's long-winded.
Yeah,
They're using
spam.
this legal jargon that is unnecessary. It's just unnecessary.
I don't know, but as I get older, I depending on the hearing, is a form of entertainment. Shit, not for nothing. That's how I got to know Kamala Harris. It wasn't until Kavanaugh's hearing that I was like, oh shit, who is this? Like she was coming at. So it's interesting. I think as I get older, the political, it reminds me of a soap opera in my own way. That's how I watch MSNBC and CNN so much. It's a fucking soap opera.
I'm reading now, okay? The Constitution of the United States divides the federal government into 3 branches to make sure no individual or group will have too much power. That ain't working.
Well, we still waiting for Georgia.
That's not working.
Because that is, child, we need this. Well, we need the Senate, child. We need this, child, we need the Senate. Child, we need the Senate.
I mean, typically, though, when any president comes in, they typically are not getting the presidency and the House and Senate. Usually that happens in the midterms.
Yeah.
Typically, you're not going to get both.
And don't forget, Obama, was it the whole 8 years that he worked with the Republican Senate as well? And so, and they made the deal in the beginning that they wasn't going to really work with him. So when people say, why was certain things so hard? It's like, it goes back to.
But it's also typical. So yes, that did happen to Obama.
Yeah.
But that situation is typical. It was typical during the Clinton administration. It was typical throughout. It happens because they just bounce from one party to the next and back again, which again kind of brings up the other issue that a lot of Americans have, which is why do we have this 2-party system? We should have multiple parties. So it brings up a lot of stuff.
Why do senators hold office longer than presidents?
That part.
We'll be back after the break.
To know why we keep repeating the same actions. Like I just think it's really crazy that we're still doing the same thing, that the laws remain the same in so many areas. Like, okay, in the Bible, you could have your hand cut off for stealing a loaf of bread.
Mm-hmm.
In the Quran, you have to wash yourself before you pray. Right?
Correct.
Yeah. My thoughts here are that I always felt like with the Quran in that particular area, like sometimes, or you can't have been with a woman before you pray, like you have to wash your body. But I'm like, sometimes my best prayers are in the middle of sex. So
oh my Lord Jesus. And
how does that work?
Well,
and is that a sin?
Some things are in practice
Mm-hmm.
and are part of hadith and are not exactly written in the Quran, but also there are also exemptions. If you're in the desert and there is no water, right? You can strike the earth. I mean, there's lots of different, Islam has a lot of details.
I find that to be very fair. The more detailed, the better.
Yes, lots of details. A lot of people like to, they get the kind of surface part, but there's lots of allowances, details, things that go into real life.
I think
what
that
would happen when the real life happens. Correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
Real life.
Mhm.
Okay, so if you have two presidential candidates and they're very, very close to one another, I would say that at that point, if they're very close to each other, but nobody really likes either of them, then we need to have another vote to see who gets to stay. And whoever gets to stay has to come up against another candidate that we vote for.
But then we have to create like a deadline because we could do this and keep doing this because there is no perfect candidate either.
There is no perfect candidate,
Right.
but we shouldn't be in a position where we don't like either.
Well,
That's how I felt
here's the
when
thing.
we were dealing with Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. I didn't like either.
Ultimately,
of them.
like I said, this is the problem with the two-party system.
Mhm.
However, this country is not that old. That's the other thing.
But they hold
Country
on to these
itself,
things.
as the United States, quote unquote, is just over 100 years old.
They're
So
holding
we're
on to these
looking-
rules like they can't be changed, like they can't be manipulated for the benefit of the people.
But yet they are still ever changing, right? Because if they weren't ever changing, the Supreme Court wouldn't be such a big deal. All these issues with us making sure the Supreme Court is fair and balanced and whatnot wouldn't be such a big deal because they're constantly making rulings over things that are ever changing. Abortion is ever changing, right? It's same thing with the Voting Rights Act. Like they're just, there's a whole case of things, LGBTQI rights. Like these are new things that they had to create new laws and, rewrite certain things. So don't you think we're in a constant kind of rewrite in a way? It's just on who's rewriting at the time?
Yeah, because there you go. There you go. Now that's a word. Who is doing the writing?
Yeah.
It's the same verbiage.
The rewriting is not the issue. It's who's doing the writing is the issue. And does that reflect those people who are living in this country? And does that reflect the best interest of the people who are living in this country or the people who are less likely to have an optimum experience in this country? So it's like, it's really more so about like who we're trying to serve and are we serving them well?
Mm-hmm.
And that question is going to be ever changing because the landscape of the country will be different over time. The country will not look exactly the same the way it did in 1920 in 2020.
Right. That's why your
Not going
cabinet
to.
should not look like the same cabinet from a president in the 1920s, i.e. Donald Trump's cabinet for the last 4 years, right?
And let's just be fair, the 1920 cabinet shouldn't have looked that way either.
No, but
Right?
yeah.
So you're talking about 1920, isn't that's like the year that women got the right to vote, correct?
White women,
1919, 1920, something around that time.
Mhm.
So at that time, our leadership wasn't reflecting its people.
Right, even with the women, you say even with the white, it
with
should have been
women-
more white women.
It should have been more Black women. It should have been more Native women. I'm talking about from the gate, from the onset of this country. Like the country is very young. And then on top of that, from the onset of the writing of the Constitution is written by flaming racists.
Yeah.
So we're...
As of today, we just actually started to be able to say that. And
we
others
just
understand.
started to be able to say that.
Yes.
So things are so much in their infancy stages.
Mhm.
And us getting to the point where we can have conversations and decisions and leadership that reflects the conversations and decisions that we're making personally and within our communities. And that leadership reflects that.
Yeah.
That's new.
Think about this, y'all. Juneteenth just came into the mainstream in 2020.
20.
That's when corporations was like, oh, that's a thing?
Like, oh, we can sell y'all some shit on this day? Good.
Exactly.
It is young, but we're talking
Yeah.
about, my great grandmother's time, my grandmother's time, my mother's time, my time,
Yeah.
Not to be biting off of Baldwin, but the verbiage does have to change.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh,
And
and
it
We're in
has
a
to
state of change. We're in a state of it will change. It ain't even a
has
has.
to change. And
Yeah.
we as a society have to pay attention to who we're putting in office and why we're putting them in office.
Yeah.
it gets dangerous. It's just like with pastors, you know, or any kind of religious figure. It's the why you're here that counts, not that you're here. It's the why. What is your purpose?
Now it is. Before it was just, we needed to be in the room. It's funny you say that, Jill, because you made me think of like a race that we had out here for district attorney against this woman, Jackie Lacey, who's a Black woman, right? And so at some point it was just like, yay, a Black woman district attorney, that should be in the conversation, right? But this Black woman is not really for Black Lives Matter. They've been protesting at her house, or in front of her house this whole time and all this other stuff. So now we're getting to a point too where, like we've discussed before, there are layers to us as a people, right? She Black, but she might not be for you.
Right. Yeah, this reminds me of conversations we had about Kamala Harris before the election. Well, it was just like, yeah, come on, guys. We can't be so, not that we should ignore representation. Representation is a big deal. But not that we should ignore representation, but that we should be able to critique representation. Yeah. We should be able to have to think critically about it and to say, hey, it's not just about having someone there. It's about do they align with our values and the values of those who are most vulnerable amongst us. And that's fair.
But we just got to the point where we can do that, right? Because we wanted to be in the room first. We wanted to be in the room first.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Got to that point.
I say that to say, Jill, sometimes we got to remind ourselves to be persistent, be active, but also at some point be patient with our movement. Like, I mean, and acknowledge that we have had movement and progress in this small amount of time. Not to say we stop or we slow down, but also just give yourself a little bit of credit. Give yourself a little bit of credit.
I'm saying that if from now on, I'm gonna wear some kind of slipper when I come down the steps, because I slid in my fuzzy socks and bust my shit. You know what I'm saying? That's all I'm saying.
Learn from mistakes.
At this point, moving forward,
I
personally am going to make it a point to pay attention to who's in office in my community.
Oh, yeah.
And when there's a chance for me to vote, that I'm going to do it.
Yes.
Because what happened is a whole racist, negative asshole who had no relationship with people, with regular human beings in this world. No relationship with them whatsoever, became president of the United States.
Yeah. And that happens because it happens on the local level too. So that's how I'm with you on that. I will say this too, in addition to paying attention to local politics, there is a section of people that go absolutely ignored by people who are generally voting, and that is your community activists. Mm-hmm. It's like there's a disconnect there, you know, in terms of listening to the work, listening to what they have to say, and listening to the work that they do, because the work that they do is directly tied into service and the service of the people in the community who are the most vulnerable. If you are only really looking at the platform of, you know, politicians when they come up for office, you know, how can you really, I mean, you're looking at their platform, they're saying that's what they believe in, but the local activists and the community folks, they're keeping those people honest. They're saying, no, we don't know you.
Well, not for nothing.
Where were you when X, Y, and Z happened? Because I'll say this about a local election that happened here in this neighborhood. And I won't say who the people were. But I remember a certain person was running, and I called my elder. I was like, she talking such and such, such. You know her? She like, oh, nuh-uh. I did 3 events. I invited all the candidates. That person never showed up. That person never showed up. I don't know who that person is. I'll make another couple phone calls, and I'll tell you. So it's like, it's that kind of thing, is that we have to be able to communicate with each other and those who are doing community work and service when they understand some things that we don't. Those of us who are getting up, going to work every day, minding our business, doing X, Y, and Z. We're not doing that work. That's not our ministry. But we owe it to them in the work that they do to take their word for it. And I think there is a bit of a disconnect with that. Local level.
On the local level, however, I do want to big up Black Lives Matter in a way, because I feel like they have, at least this election, became a great kind of McDonald's sense of that being that
local
conduit.
Grassroots organizing. Mm-hmm.
Exactly. And I say that to say that they gave it was a time when I'm looking, because I told y'all in Cali, it's a large study book for the ballot. So many things you have to vote on, right?
Mm-hmm.
But what Black Lives Matter did was they made themselves the central person for all local elections and gave you a checklist of kind of like at least who rolls with them, right? So then on a local level, which was like, okay, so you roll with them. Now I decide, do I roll with you because of this and because of all these other things that I know. So
Right.
I also say that to say that, Asia, I think that too is a process that we're in the midst of, that I want to acknowledge that we might have been not so progressive about 4 years ago. But I think that what Donald Trump has done is forced us to be more part of the situation where we didn't understand the power of our territories, our states, the electoral college, our local, the registrars, you know, the importance of the person who actually is in charge of voter registration in your local municipality.
Right.
Like, thank you to my girl, Stacey Abrams, because she brought that up. So again, I want to acknowledge that we learning. We getting there. We watching more MSNBC, CNN than we ever
trust
have.
and believe, those people who were organizing under BLM locally, they were most definitely the same folks that had been organizing all along.
Right.
With their own organizations and
Right.
their own stuff. They just happen to also be a part of BLM or come together under BLM. Believe you me, that the folks that have been on the ground are the same people that were on the ground 10 years ago. They're the same people that were on the ground 5 years ago. These are the same folks. So I think it's just important to remember that when we mad at people, when we talk about, oh, you too woke for your own good, and I don't know about that. Think about that these people, they've been on the ground years before you knew who they were. Years before.
Yeah.
And one thing I will bring up was that when we see progress, when we see something and say, oh, that's progress, what you see is organizers. What you see is their work. So what you are seeing is that. That's not the politician. Those are the organizers who have made that a point that politician make that a part of what they're doing. The politician is the person who follows the directive of the organizers who are connected to the people.
Think about how far we come since that word community organizer was a bad word. Remember when they called Obama that? He ain't nothing but a community organizer.
And that works on the Trump side too.
Yeah.
Somebody brought this up the other day. I was watching a panel and they said, yeah, we have to remember that they were organizing their asses off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Same thing. So we have to be clear that this same action is happening on the opposite end as well. And it's happening in this moment.
Remember, please, good people, that being a citizen, some of us are just born into citizenship, but it's also a responsibility.
Yes, ma'am.
And it is also, it's a privilege, depending on how you look at it or why you look at it. But it's a responsibility and a privilege. So pay attention to the people in your community. When you hit 18 and you're old enough to vote, pay attention to the community that you're in. Pay on every possible level, wherever you can have a voice, make it a point to have it, because what we don't want is another hate monger of any kind, of any race in the presidency ever again.
Coming up next on the show, What's on Your Heart? An occasional segment where we check in with people we respect about how they're really feeling.
Hold on, y'all. Wait a minute. I think somebody's calling. That must mean it's time for What's on Your Heart?
All right, so here's the deal. When we first started this show, the J.Ill podcast, Jill Scott made it a point to let me and Asia know that she wants all kinds of different voices to be represented on the show. Now, of course, the first person that I thought about was my cousin, Dr. Angel Love Miles, who has a PhD in women's studies and some other things that I really can't pronounce. But it's also a beautiful Black woman who was born with spina bifida, who has surpassed all kinds of goals, records, and whatever. She is the pride of our family. So I wanted to bring, and she's also a Philly girl.
Oh.
So with all... A Philly girl, a Germantown girl. So with all that being said, Dr. Angel Love Miles, how are you?
I'm good, just chilling with Jill Scott and Asia, the usual.
So I know all about you, Angel.
First
but
of all, like it
yeah.
kills me when her cousin got a whole PhD. My cousin is a wrestler. I'm like, see, that's how black folks do you. They like, oh, I'm just gonna call my cousin. She's just, just dope. But
But
think the
Lila
rest-
I don't know what's up with y'all's family, but whatever.
Lila's
No.
got people.
I'm lucky and blessed. But, and it's funny because as me and Angel, we were talking today and she was talking about how she is connected. She's fans of both of y'all. She's going to be real humble and not say that. But I was like, Asia from Kindred on here too. So I kind of wanted Angel to tell her own story in a way and, kind of introduce yourself to not only the listeners, but to Asia and Jill as well.
Okay. Well, like you said, my big cousin, I'm Angel. I'm from Philly, from Germantown, Philadelphia. I grew up going to a school for kids with physical disabilities in Philly called Widener Memorial School. And if I'm not mistaken, Jill, you went to Girls High.
Yeah.
So Widener's right behind Girls High.
Right.
And I don't, a lot of people don't notice that. And I went to Girls High part-time. So it's called, at the time they called it mainstreaming. And so I went to Widener part of the day and I would go to Girls High the other part of the day. When I was in high school, but I was in Girls. I went to Widener really from kindergarten to 12th grade. And I only went to Girls High like maybe my sophomore year to my senior year. And so, but I also, am a Black girl. So, and I grew up in low income housing in Philly and, dealt with the typical Philly issues of, being poor and just drama, drugs and addiction in my family and all that stuff. And so somehow, in spite of, and also because of all those things, I was able to go to college. And I went to Penn State, which was not like Philly at all. Main campus, overwhelmingly majority white, no disabled people. And that was really hard because I went to a school for disabled kids my whole life where everything was made for us and it was normal to be disabled. And suddenly nothing was made for me. And I had to talk to the teachers and ask them to accommodate me where I never had to do that before. Things were just accessible. If my wheelchair broke down, there was a brace shop and I could just go to the brace shop and get my chair fixed. We even had a wheelchair swing in our playground. So everything was made for us. And then all of a sudden life was will never be like that again. I had to face reality that I live in a dominant non-disabled world and that I have to get everybody else to adjust to me. So I did that in addition to adjusting to race and racism at Penn State, which was I knew racism existed, of course, but and I was exposed to white people growing up, but there I was exposed to white people who weren't used to Black people. The white people I grew up with were used to Black people. So they grew up with Black people. Particularly my stepfather was white, and Ian knows that he's not an everyday Black man. Me, white man. See, I called him Black man by an accident because he grew up around Black people, and people would be like, "Oh, well, that light-skinned brother right there." And I'm like, "No, my dad is white." He's real white. So, anyways, I grew up, with that. And anyway, to make a long story short, I went to Penn State, graduated. I pursued my master's and then my PhD because I wanted to know, when I went to college, I was like, where'd everybody go? I grew up with a really diverse community. Where did everybody go? Why am I, the only Black disabled woman in all my classes, at least with apparent disability, because there are people with unapparent disabilities. So I want to acknowledge that. But there were no people that were openly saying that they're disabled and that were physically disabled and a person of color where I was. And my friends that I grew up with who were disabled and often people of color, they were unemployed. They were chilling at home. Their parents living off of their Social Security. And I was like, why? We all had dreams and goals just like everybody else. So I researched it and I went to grad school and I got the PhD. Here I am. Like, that's like the skip to the end. There's like a whole lot in between there.
It was. What's the
But
PhD in again, Angel? Because
it's in women's studies. And you know, it's a radical degree. So everybody's like, women's studies, like, are you a gynecologist or whatever? No, not interested in that. But really, it's just studies like gender, basically as a category, and like gender in relationship to other social identities. So it really is just a way of like looking at identity and inequality in general, because in challenging like dominant ideology, so challenging dominant worldviews, and dominant usually is like male, white, cis, heterosexual, just challenging all those like dominant identities, and really instead centering like marginalized identities, and thinking about intersectionality and feminism and all that stuff. So all that good stuff. So I really wanted to, my grandparents had master's degrees, and they taught me that, like, they got it at a time when it's really hard for Black people to get master's degrees. And because they were Black, they weren't able to economically benefit from their degrees the way that they should have. So that's why, like, in spite of their degrees, when my mother was in college and met my father, like his uncle, and had my brother and then me, we still wound up in subsidized housing because they didn't have wealth to transfer to the family like they would have if my grandparents would have been white. But anyway, they had taught me that education should make you better to people, not better than people, right?
Let me just say that growing up in North Philly, I really think it was, although we had drugs, we had violence, we also had a really gigantic group of people who were just people. Mm-hmm. So I don't recall feeling a heaviness about someone being bold or gay or a person with disabilities. I don't recall, we knew who the crackheads were. Like, oh, that's so-and-so, they on crack. You know what I mean? It was kind of like we were very accepting of everything that everybody was. And if you liked the person, you liked them. And that's just what it was. If you didn't, you didn't, for whatever reasons that were yours. But I don't remember feeling a heaviness in my neighborhood anyway about people being themselves. And I think that that's really what all we want is for people to be be themselves without having to carry whatever boxes and bullshit that this society places on us. So here's the question, Dr. Miles. What is on your heart?
Peace is on my heart. I'm just really trying to think about, how can we get to peace, because I believe that it's achievable, and I have to have hope that it's achievable. And I think that there are groups in power that want us to believe that it's not, and so I think that that's something that's really on my heart. Love is on my heart. I have someone that I really love who voted for Trump, and it's really tearing me apart. Like, this person is a person of color, this person is disabled, and someone I really love that I actually had a relationship, like a intimate relationship with at one point, and I just cannot figure it out. And it's really turning me apart. And I'm like, do I cut this person off? Is that the way do I handle it? Because are they harboring some type of hate that I don't know about? Someone like, but when I'm with them, like, I don't experience any of that. Like, I just experience kindness. And so, I have to believe that like love will help us overcome these differences. Like, I don't think that just cutting people off will solve it. And I'm just hopeful like that because I'm not perfect either. And there's some other areas that, I may be harming someone. So I'm trying to figure out how to have grace, but also like stay to my principles. And so that's really hard. But I also want to close and say that, like, you know, you're on my heart, Asia. You're on my heart, Jill. Like, oh, Laia, you're in my heart because you're my family. And I couldn't be remiss without like sharing, you know, like how Jill's like music like has impacted me, how it particularly has helped me get through graduate school and overcome so many of those barriers. And so, you know, when you say like in Beautifully Human, like I am here, like I am a wealth unfathomed, and if you don't recognize my presence, I am here. If you don't recognize me, I am here. Like I felt I am a source of power. Like I felt that way in my soul as a Black woman because I'm a Black woman with disability because I'm ignored so much. And I'm treated invisibly so much. And so, you know, when I grew up in Germantown, yes, there was some part where like everybody was accepted in some ways, but there were a lot of ways where like I was ignored, I was chased, I was spit on by Black people, I was teased unrelentingly. I was excluded. I wanted to be on drill teams so much. But they would not let me be on there, parents and kids, because I was disabled. And just treated me like my disability was contagious. So I experienced that, but I also experienced an immense kindness from the same community. So we have both in our community, and we have to, you know, when Joe Biden talks about, you know, that this is not who we are, when he talks about his, when he did his speech and he said like his acceptance speech, this is not who we are, we're Americans. And he needs to acknowledge that it is who we are.
It is who we are, yes.
Like we are both, as Americans, like we are both, you know, our worst enemy, you know, and our best friends. And we can't keep lying to ourselves.
And he did for the first time, actually, any president or president-elect actually mentioned disabled people in his speech, which is not, he shouldn't get a big cracker for, but
it's a
start. He did that because of the work that we did, because we organized, like disabled people organized and got on him, and we helped elect him. So
Amen.
he
should
earned
have.
that. We fought really hard for that because we're 20% of the population.
Yeah.
And the Democratic Party is just starting to really say like, oh, if we get these folks to organize, like maybe they have some power. So So I wanted to like, you know, talk about that and everything.
And understanding that what was behind that. So I'm just like, think it's so important and so poignant that to bring us back to the fact that, yes, when you see these things happen, there is work behind that. Mm-hmm. There's organizing behind that. When you see something, it didn't just fall out of the sky. There are Black women, there are Black people, there are Black people from all kinds of intersections, all kinds of spaces that are organizing to make sure that those things happened. It's not just an empty moment. It's a moment that Black people worked and strived to get. And that's not even enough.
Yeah, and it's like, and not just Black people, but like marginalized people in general, like disabled people, like LGBTQ people, like disabled people. Like a lot of times people treat us like things were a charity, like just like given to us. Like, oh, wasn't that nice that, you know, that the America gave us ramps and automatic doors. And it's like, no, they don't know. They don't teach the disability rights movement. Like they don't know that the disabled people chain themselves to buses. Like they don't know that disabled people put sledgehammers to curbs. Like that we thought that they wouldn't let us have, you know, our own, to be integrated into schools, that it was illegal to just segregate disabled people into schools, to special schools like the school that I went to, where there was really no reason why I shouldn't have been able to go to Girls High all day long. Right. When I went to Penn State. But there's this belief that you know, because I was disabled, that I needed something special. And clearly I didn't, because I mean, I moved to Chicago. I live in Chicago now. Like I've been to Japan, I've been to Australia. So clearly I could have been at Girls High. And so it's like society has to change the way that they think about, because we put limitations on people with disabilities that are more limiting than our actual conditions themselves. And so when Jill Scott says living my life like it's golden, like that is an empowering thing for a disabled person to say, because our lives are not viewed as valuable. Like, you know, so when I say I'm happy, people are like, well, how can you be happy? You're disabled. You were born. Like, people say this to me all the time. They congratulate me for being outside. Like, look at you outside.
Do you have a certain like tool bag of cuss words that you have for people? Because I just need to know, because I'm just saying, like, people will be getting cussed out on a regular.
People
That's insane.
have said that they start praying for me automatically. Like, one lady was like, get out of that chair, girl.
Yes, you told me about that.
In the name of Jesus. And I'm like, as if you just demanded. And my mother said I should have got up. Like, it's like, because I can't walk. So it just started messing with me. I didn't think about it, but I should just start playing with people. But just for fun. But, and I like to laugh about it, but it's really not okay. It's a type of street harassment. Like, we know about street harassment for women being sexually assaulted.
It's violent. But
disabled people get street harassed. People randomly ask me, can I have sex? Like,
what?
When I was a teenager, adult man is like, well, how do you do it? Can you do it? First of all, that's none of your business. But, like, secondly, like, what? It's just, so we need to, one, educate people about disability. People don't learn about it in school. And so
that's why this conversation is important, Angel. That's why your voice is important, Angel.
One thing about this kind of work and people like yourself, I feel like the more that I listen to you, the more I understand how to treat people better. Like you said, education should make you better to others, not better than others. And I feel like the more that I interact, and I'm always telling people, like, why are we not listening to our organizers? Why are we not listening to our advocates and activists? These are the people who are most in touch with who we are at our core. These are the folks that are talking to people who are the most affected by all the things that are going on.
Because they don't get an opportunity to speak in a way where everybody gets to hear it.
Right.
And that is an issue.
Right.
That is an issue. I thank you so much for being with us, Dr. Miles, Angel Love Miles.
Thank you.
How do you eat an elephant?
One bite at a time.
Hey y'all, I'm Eves, a producer on the show, and I'm here to bring you the resource of the day. As all of the women on the show mentioned, the organizers in your community are out here putting in work. Let's give them our support and acknowledgement. Jill, Laia, and Aja all have love for Philly, and Aja has a recommendation for y'all based in the city. Check out the Black Philly Radical Collective, which includes the organizations Philly for Real Justice, Black Lives Matter Philly, the Abolitionist Law Center Philadelphia, and many more. I'll drop a link to the collective's website in the description. And for those of you outside of Philly, research the anti-racist, abolitionist, and progressive organizations and causes in your area.
I thank you so much for listening. And, you can always leave your comments. We're open to that, always.
Thank you for listening to Jill Scott Presents J.Ill, the podcast.
Yeah.
This podcast is hosted by Jill Scott, Laia St. Clair, and Aja Graydon Dantzler. Its executive producers are Jill Scott, Sean G., and Brian Calhoun. It's produced by Laia St. Clair and me, Eves Jeffcoat. The editing and sound design for this episode were done by Taylor Chacoin.
Just like so many reasons why this shit happened, that for us to prevent it, what about them 76 million people? If that's real. Because now that we know that other countries can be involved in our elections and maneuver our elections, it's like...
This is the problem with having so much information.
Yup.
It's too much. So you don't know what's real. You don't know what's real. It's so many, and there's the truth, and then it's my truth. I have my truth. I'm standing in my truth. All of those things. We don't know what truth is anymore. J.Ill is a production of iHeartRadio. For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, visit the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.